Welcome to Music Tech Explained, the visual approach. My name is Edgar Rothermich, author of the best-selling book series Graphically Enhanced Manuals. In this second of a two-part video about the library window, we will finally look at what type of content the library window is displaying. The different types of settings you can load onto components of the channel strip. I already mentioned a few times that the library window functions like a special browser. Instead of displaying a specific type of content like the loop browser or the project audio browser, the library window can display different types of content. That is something many Logic users are confused about or not even aware of it in the first place. Here's a list of the different types of settings that the library window can display. Patches, channel strip settings, audio effects plugin settings, MIDI effects plugin settings, software instrument plugin settings, EXS Instruments, drummers, drum kit pieces, and MIDI ports. Now, which of these type of settings is displayed in the library window depends on two main factors. One, what type of track is currently selected, and two, where is the library focus triangle pointing at. So let me repeat. The library window doesn't have a pop-up menu where you select the type of setting. Only the combination of the selected track and library focus triangle determines what is displayed in the library window. I will demonstrate that by showing each type of setting. Let's start with patches. When the library focus triangle is pointing at the setting button on top of the inspector channel strip, then the library window will show patches. I will not go into the details about the important topic of patches. I cover that in my book Logic Pro 10 How It Works. Here are just a few things you have to be aware of. Loading a patch onto a channel strip will not only override the current channel strip with all its plugins and settings, it can also load additional channel strips like aux channel strips. The Enable Patch Merging option located in the Action menu in the lower left corner of the library window lets you restrict which elements of the channel strip you allow to be overridden. Each channel strip type, for example audio channel strips, instrument channel strips, aux channel strips, etc., have their separate categories of patches. That means even if the library focus triangle is pointing at the setting button, the displayed content in the library window can change, showing only the patches for the currently selected channel strip type. The library focus triangle is always pointing at the setting button when you open the library window or when selecting a different track. That means, as a default, the library window displays patches. That default rule is also important for one specific situation, and that is when the main inspector is hidden. Remember, we said that the library focus triangle determines what is displayed in the library, but if the triangle is not visible because the main inspector is hidden, key command I, then the library will show the patches, and selecting a patch will load it into the currently selected track in the tracks area. One more thing. If the library displays patches, then you might see the following two items in the first column: user channel strips and legacy. These categories contain so-called channel strip settings, which are different from patches, kind of an early version of patches. Again, more about that in my book Logic Pro 10 How It Works. MIDI effects plugins. If you have a MIDI effects plugin loaded on one of the 8 slots of an instrument channel strip, then you can place the library focus triangle next to it by clicking to the left of the button or shift-clicking on the button. Now the following will happen. The library window changes to show plugin settings. It only shows the plugin settings available for that specific plugin it is pointing at. That means the settings files that are located on your drive in the specific folder inside the plugin settings folder of your factory and user settings. Please note that the plugin settings that are displayed in the library window are the same that are displayed in the plugin window of the corresponding plugin when you click on the settings menu in the upper left corner. Audio effects plugins. If you have audio effects plugins loaded on one of the 15 slots of a channel strip, then you can place the library focus triangle next to it by clicking to the left of the button or shift-clicking on the button. Now you see a similar scenario. The library window displays plugin settings. Now it only shows the plugin settings available for that specific audio effects plugin you are pointing at. In this example, the plugin settings for the delay designer. Again, these are the plugin settings that are stored on your drive in the two plugin settings folders for that specific plugin, factory and user settings if available. And again, you can access those same plugin settings from the settings menu when you open the plugin window. Software instrument plugins. If you have a software instrument plugin loaded on the input slot of an instrument channel strip, in this example the retro synth, then you can place the library focus triangle next to it by clicking to the left of the button or shift-clicking on the button. A software instrument plugin behaves the same as audio effects plugins or MIDI effects plugins regarding the library window. The library window displays any available plugin settings for that instrument plugin. Those plugin settings are stored on your drive in the same plugin settings folder in a subfolder named after that plugin. You can access those same plugin settings from the settings menu when you open the plugin window. EXS Instruments. The EXS24 plugin is the only software instrument plugin that behaves differently from other software plugins regarding the library window. This is an important little detail that is often overlooked or not known even by experienced Logic users. Here's what happens when you load an EXS instrument onto the input slot of an instrument channel strip. Instead of the plugin setting for the EXS24, the library window will now show the available EXS instruments on your drive. EXS instruments are a unique type of files specific to the EXS24 plugin. They are stored in the folder called Sampler Instruments in the system library for the factory instruments and the Audio Music Apps folder for the user instruments that you create by yourself. These sampler instruments that are displayed in the library window correspond to the instruments that are displayed in the Sampler Instruments menu on the EXS24 plugin window. In the plugin settings menu of the plugin window of the EXS24, you still can save and recall plugin settings for the EXS24, but they cannot be displayed in the library window. They are kind of redundant anyways. Drummer track. If you have a drummer track selected, then the library window looks a little bit different. Here's what you have to pay attention to. The standard browser area with the header Sounds still functions the same. It displays the content depending on where you place the library focus triangle. The drummer area above is only displayed when a drummer track is selected. It lets you select one of Logic's drummers. To predict what happens regarding the settings of your channel strip when you select a drummer, you have to understand the unique drummer ecosystem. I explain that in my book with lots of graphics. Here's a quick fact you have to keep in mind. Selecting a drummer will automatically load its corresponding patch to the current drummer track. However, if you click the padlock icon in the Sounds header of the library window, you prohibit the loading of a new patch and only the drummer presets of the drummer are loaded to the drummer editor. Again, lots of details to learn about the drummer ecosystem, which is really sophisticated, which means also a little bit complex here and there. Drum Machine Designer. About the drummer track, there is one hidden feature regarding the library window. Let me demonstrate that. Select a drummer that is based on the Drum Machine Designer, for example, any drummer in the electronic category. Let's pick Ronnie. Click on the input slot button of the track that displays the Drum Machine Designer. Please note that the Drum Machine Designer is not really an instrument plugin, although listed in the instrument plugin menu. What you see in the inspector channel strip is actually an aux channel strip, the main track of a summing stack to be specific. And the button with the abbreviated name for Drum Machine Designer represents a bus input, not an instrument. To open and close the Drum Machine Designer window, you can click on that button, or you can also double-click anywhere on the background of the inspector channel strip, which also works in the mixer window. Please note that the Drum Machine Designer window is not a plugin window. It is a special user interface for the special summing stack that represents the Drum Machine Designer. Now I will click on a cell in the Drum Machine Designer window, the snare, and pay attention to what happens in the library window and the inspector channel strip. The right inspector channel strip changes to display the channel strip that is assigned to that drum kit piece, the snare. You can also see that the blue library focus triangle has moved to the settings button on top of the right inspector channel strip. As we have already learned, when the blue library focus triangle is pointing at the setting button, then the library window will display patches. And this is also the case here. However, these are special patches that load that drum kit piece on that channel strip, a subtrack of the summing stack. Plus, it loads the configuration for that channel strip. Those patches for the individual kit pieces are stored in a specific location on your drive. Look at the nested categories in the library window that represent the folder structure. The electronic drum kit category, then the Drum Machine Designer, kit pieces, and then the categories for those kit pieces that include the individual patches. MIDI ports. And last but not least, there is one more type of content that the library can display. It is not that useful, but let's have a quick look, just for the fun of it. This specialty only appears when you select an external MIDI track. Here are a few things you have to pay attention to. Please note that the channel strip of an external MIDI track only displays MIDI controls, but no audio controls. This special channel strip cannot display the library focus triangle at all. However, whenever an external MIDI track is selected, the library browser will still show the following content, even in the absence of the library focus triangle. The first column lists all the MIDI devices available on your computer, and the second column displays the 16 MIDI channel for each of those devices. Selecting a MIDI device and its MIDI channels in the library window is the same as selecting the port and MIDI channel in the track inspector. The first column also lists a category named Other Objects that contains MIDI objects created in the environment. There you find the MIDI click, an object that Logic automatically creates in each new project. You can find it in the environment when selecting the Click and Ports layer. Now if you also open the project settings, metronome, then you can see that all three areas, the track inspector, the project setting, and the environment show the same parameters for the MIDI click. So those are all the different types of settings that the library window can display. From now on, whenever you look at the library window, always look out for the blue library focus triangle to know what the library window is actually showing you. And more importantly, understand what will happen when you click on an item in the library window. There are a few remaining things regarding the library window I want to point out. Last saved setting. Now we know that placing the library focus triangle next to a slot will switch the library window to display all the available settings for that specific slot. But there is one additional functionality on the display. When you load a specific setting, for example the fuzz vocals patch on an audio track, then switch to different settings or a different track and come back to the track, pointing at that slot, then the library window will not only display the corresponding settings, it will also highlight the setting that was loaded onto that slot, the fuzz vocals in that case. Please note that it only shows you what settings you have loaded, but not if you have tweaked the settings after that. The Save button. Please pay special attention to the Save button at the bottom of the library window that lets you save your own settings. The button only says Save, but unfortunately doesn't indicate to save what type of setting. The type of setting file that is saved depends on what setting file are currently displayed in the library window, which is determined by the position of the library focus triangle. For example, if you are pointing at the Setting button, you will save a patch. If you are pointing at a plugin, a MIDI effects, audio effects, or software instrument plugin, you will save a plugin setting. If you are pointing at an EXS24 plugin, you will save an EXS sampler instrument. Here's one additional indication. When you click the Save button, a Save dialog opens with the proper folder already selected where the settings file should be stored on your drive. When the extended view of the Save dialog is displayed, click on the up-down arrow button next to the name. Then you can click on the menu below to show the navigation path to that folder location. The path name includes a folder that indicates the type of settings file: a patch, a plugin setting, or an EXS sampler instrument. The Right Inspector channel strip. The library focus triangle is not restricted to the Left Inspector channel strip. As we have seen earlier in the example with the drum machine designer, you can also place the library focus triangle next to a slot on the Right Inspector channel strip to load settings on that channel strip. And don't forget, you can place the library focus triangle by clicking to the left of a slot or holding down the Shift key and click directly on that slot. Please read up on my tutorial on my website logicprogem.com about the Inspector channel strip that demonstrates the different functionalities of the Right Inspector channel strip. One of those useful areas many Logic users are not really familiar with. The Action menu. Here's a quick look at the Action menu in the library window, that button with the gear icon in the lower left corner of the library window. First, you have to know that this is a dynamic menu, which means that its content is changing depending on where the library focus triangle is pointing at. One useful menu item is the command Define as Default. That is also available when you right-click on a setting in the library window. This command is useful for two purposes. The New Track dialog has a checkbox Load Default Patch. When enabled, Logic will create the new audio track and automatically load that patch that you marked as default. The Define as Default command is also useful for plugins like audio effects plugins, MIDI effects plugins, or instrument plugins, except the EXS24. Whenever you load a plugin on a channel strip, it will automatically load that plugin preset that you marked as default. Okay, that sums it up about the library window. There are still some aspects that I haven't talked about it, but I think this is plenty of material to discover, to try out, and to implement in your workflow. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to read my free Logic and Pro Tools tutorials and check out the books in my graphically enhanced manual series. By the way, on Apple's iBook Store, you can download free samples of all my books in the special interactive multi-touch iBooks version, the best way to learn a software application. All the links are available